here, the second angel now sounds his trumpet, and Revelation 8 through 9 says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. There's fire again. It's a fiery judgment. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. So again, we see fire, right? God's wrath is characterized by fire. But this time, it's a great mountain burning with fire, and it's cast into the sea. It says, as it were, a great mountain burning with fire. It wasn't literally a great mountain burning with fire. It's as it were. So this is what it appeared like to John. And so as a result, a third of all creatures in the seas die, and a third of the sea becomes as blood. This is also reminiscent of an Old Testament plague, of Moses' plagues in Egypt. Remember Exodus 7:20, and Moses and Aaron did so as the Lord commanded, and he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the water in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood, right? And so we see parallels between the judgments of the Old Testament and the final wrath of God. Again, this is a major ecological disaster. The end times are characterized by death and destruction, not only of people, but of the environment and the planet itself. It's a global, worldwide, catastrophic judgment of the creation, of the whole creation, including man, including the earth, including the grass, including the mountains. And so, most people, most scholars and just, end times students of eschatology, of the Bible, have interpreted this second plague, this second trumpet, to be an asteroid. Asteroids can be quite large, as big as a great mountain. They could be many miles in size. Even a medium-sized asteroid can be miles in diameter. And so it's likely that it's an asteroid that hits the earth and crashes into the seas and, causes all the sea creatures, a third of them to die and a third of the oceans to turn to blood. Now, a lot of commentators interpret this as symbolic of a great power or a great nation being cast down, and that the bloodshed that follows as seas, because seas often in the Bible represent nations. But this really is spiritualizing the Bible. I don't tend to read the Bible symbolically, except where it's obviously symbolic. When it says "as it were," then that's representing something else. But other than that, for the most part, within the context, it's pretty common sense to determine what's literal and what's not. John did see a mountain, as it were, burning with fire being thrown into the sea, and so that's what I believe it'll be. And so even though seas sometimes do represent nations, I don't see any evidence for that in the surrounding context here. It just says a great mountain burning specifically with fire, which sounds a lot like an asteroid falling into the sea, which would then naturally cause an environmental disruption of a third of all the oceans. It's also consistent with the first trump, which was the destruction of a third of all trees and grass. And so the judgment is covering different aspects. These first few trumpet judgments are targeted towards different aspects of the creation itself. From the land to the seas, none are exempt from God's wrath. The good news, again, is that we won't be here to witness any of this, but at this point in the chronology, the church has been raptured, and God is no longer holding back his judgment. Right now, God is holding back the judgment against the church, against the earth, because of the church, right? So once we're gone, there's no reason. He can just go all out and bring the final judgment and destroy all those who are not his. And every year we hear about an asteroid coming near Earth's orbit. The last one came only about 2,000 miles away from Earth's orbit, and that's pretty close, and that happened this year. That was this year in 2023, earlier this year. And, it's not going to hit until it's time, right? Until we're gone, it's not going to hit. So we don't have to worry about an asteroid hitting the Earth to the level that it's just going to destroy everything. But when it's time, it's going to hit at the blowing of the second trumpet once we've been raptured out. And we could see they're already asteroids and comets, they're circling, they're nearby, they're going, they're near. And so, we don't personally have to worry about that. That's the nice thing about this portion of Revelation for us. But, woe unto those who have been left behind to face God's wrath. It's going to be far worse than what we will experience during the tribulation.